Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cloud Show with your host, Magnus Mårtensson. This is the show where we talk about all the important things that cloud leaders need to know about and understand about. And as always, we have a very interesting guest here on the show today. It is a good friend of mine. His name is Rik Hepworth. Hello, Rik. How are you doing today?
Hi, Magnus. It's great to be here. I have to say, I'm digging this whole sort of chat show vibe that you've got going. It's really nice.
Thank you. That's the point. I appreciate it. So, how are you? Tell us, who are you, and why would you know anything about cloud?
What makes you think I know anything about cloud? No, wait. So my name is Rik Hepworth. Says on the badge, right? I work for a software development company here in the UK called Black Marble, and we've been doing solutions in Microsoft Azure since back when it was Windows Azure, and it was web roles and worker roles, right? Way back when.
Yep.
I guess because of that, and because I'm quite passionate about supporting the community, I've been an Azure MVP for nearly 10 years now. I think I've been an MVP for 9. And like you, Magnus, I'm a regional director, which is terribly difficult to explain. I think I've been one of those for 3 years now. So if you like, my day job is going into organizations and having conversations, hopefully like the one we're going to have, right? Which is so you think you want cloud. Why do you want cloud? What are the business drivers? Are you ready for cloud? You know, how are you going to manage this? How are your team ready? All the sort of lovely governance of governance and that kind of stuff. And then in my community personal life, I'm out banging a drum and going, hey, this thing cloud's really cool. And look, you can do all this cool stuff with it. And you ought to go and learn about it. And it's really great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of a passion. It's kind of a lifestyle, really. I mean, we keep doing this all the time. And so you work with a lot of companies like SMB-sized companies and public sector companies and that sort of thing. And so what I thought would be interesting to talk to you about today is all the things that you really should be, or all the things, gosh, that would be a long show. Some of the very, very important things that you need to think about when you're about to make, like, pull the trigger or pull the pin out of the hand grenade, I believe you called it, when you're about to go to the cloud. What are some things that you, as a cloud leader or as a leader of a company about to do some cloud stuff, really, really need to think about? Is that cool?
Exactly. Yeah, right. I mean, it's fundamental stuff. Like, I mean, you know, you do the same kind of consultancy I do. You tend to get called in by customers when it's all gone wrong, and what you wish you could have done was talk to them before they started the journey and put the arm around the shoulder and go, look, hang on a minute, don't do that. And starting with things, little things like that everybody thinks is simple, like how are you going to buy Azure? Not the whole of Azure, right? I mean, that's going to be really expensive, but how are we going to pay for it? How are we going to manage it? And a lot of organizations that I work with, I tend to find they've got the old, well, somebody just got it with a credit card. And you know, there's a couple of subscriptions managed with a credit card. And you go, yeah, but what happens if the credit card expires? I'm a mine of anecdotes, right? I once worked with an organization, their IT director left. The company canceled his credit card. 2 weeks later, all of their Office 365 shut down because the credit card stopped and all the billing bounced.
Wonderful.
Don't do that. There are managed ways to buy Azure, but there are different ways to buy Azure, and it's different choices. And how do you make those choices? And I think it can be daunting for a lot of organizations to learn what they need to know before they get started on the journey. You know, it's not just the where are we going, it's the have we checked the tire pressures, and have we packed the sandwiches, and is the coffee warm?
Yeah, definitely.
And so many people just start the journey, right?
Yep.
Investigate what is the difference between pay-as-you-go with a credit card versus what they call the Microsoft customer agreement, where you're buying it direct from Microsoft, versus the cloud solution provider, which, if you're a solicitor, you know, if you're a law firm or an accountancy firm, why are you buying Azure direct from Microsoft and managing it for yourself? Unless you're a big firm, pay somebody else to do it for you, outsource it. your primary role as a business is to make money from the law or other people's money if you're an accountant, right? Don't get into managing cloud. But then if you're an organization that does development, software development, that kind of stuff, a managed service provision for your cloud might not be the right choice. And it's how do you make that distinction? You've probably got a different view there, right, Magnus? Because you tend to do consultancy with much more the private sector and larger organizations. So what do you see when you go into organizations?
Jesus, turning the table around on you. Nice, I like that. All right, well, all right, so I'll bite. I see pretty much the same things. Like yourself, I strongly feel that, the sooner I can get in there, earlier in their game, in their journey, if you will, the better. If you don't get in there early enough, you're definitely bound to walk into a place that is really messy and scary, and they've done lots of things. Let's call it suboptimally, right? They could have done better if they had known better. And I think that there is a ton of bravery involved with doing something like as transformative as going to the cloud. It doesn't have to be super dramatically transformative, but let's say that you're a company that has had some IT for a good number of years, 20, 30 years or something. You've never done cloud, and now you're going to do that. That is going to be pretty, transformative. Again, it's going to shake you up. So I think that there's a lot of bravery involved here in terms of being humble enough to ask for help. It's kind of self-serving, right? We're consultants, so we should say that because that's our business. But there's truth to it. If you can find and hire someone who is experienced with cloud, well, good luck with that, and please hire them immediately. But if you can't, then get some help. And there's a lot of humble attitude involved in that. But moreover, I think that there's room here for a lot of bravery in terms of just being honest about the fact that we are elaborating on things we don't really know yet. We're going to get better fast, and we're going to make mistakes. And while making those mistakes, we have to recognize, oh, that was a wonderful mistake. Bravo, wonderful mistake. That was amazing, that mistake. And we learned something, and now we have to be brave enough to change direction. I think there's going to be a lot of directional changes early in the game for any cloud company that's going to the cloud. If they're going there without maybe enough experience in-house, or at least hired experience, right? You agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really interesting, actually, because when we talk about skills and experience and bringing in that experience, a lot of the time we're talking about practitioner level, right? Is your IT team ready for managing cloud infrastructure? Are your developers ready for cloud? As a slight tangent on developers, so many developers I keep encountering in organizations, they haven't even got basic source control. So cloud feels like a bit of you're not ready to ride the bike yet, because you need some of the fundamentals. But I do wonder sometimes, as an IT industry, we don't necessarily help the non-technical management, right? And a lot of organizations are not technical organizations. And there's a great deal of really rich resource for technical people to adopt the cloud, written in technical language. And there's great management frameworks for it, right? And Cloud Adoption Framework is a really good management framework written by Microsoft, but it's intended to be driven by IT. So if you're not high up the maturity scale as an IT organization, how do you get help then? And one of the things that I find myself doing is talking to non-technical people to try and help them onto a low enough rung on the ladder that they can understand the pitfalls and work out what they need in terms of hiring technical help.
That's right.
Without being overwhelmed.
So effectively, you're a babblefish, really. You translate between normal people and technical people, right? Because I'm a technical. I love technical people, right? They're magical. It's absolutely phenomenal, except that they're not really understood by people who are not technical.
No.
Right?
No.
There's a huge challenge there, and so let's focus in on that here when it comes to understanding how to make sort of your plan. Plan is more tactical, really. I mean, you need to figure out strategically why you're doing something, and if you're investing, you've had some IT budget, X millions, right, per year, and you've had servers and things or whatever you've had, and you're highly likely to have a similar amount of money going into the cloud, and you've heard it's going to be cheaper and more, agile and all the good things. You've heard all the good stories, but at least you're going in probably with a significant amount of money, right? How do you strategize that as a business? How do you motivate what you're about to do, and how do you let your technical people know where to focus? Because there's a lot of different ways to focus.
Oh, absolutely. I think, as a consultant, there's a joke that you keep asking why until you get to the money. All of the stuff you just said, lots of organizations think they should be doing cloud because they read and are told that they should be doing cloud, right? And again, there's a maturity thing. I always think another good friend of ours, Rasmus, right, works for a very large organization, and he talks about how they have their own data centers, but that's not their core business. They don't want to be in the business of running data centers. They want to be in the business of doing what they actually do.
Yep.
So for them, there is a strategic aim to stop doing things that don't deliver direct value to the organization. And I think that what delivers value should underpin all of the choices you make as an organization, not just on cloud. But it's the thing that, it's weird. IT is this strange thing that people they throw an exception, right? They have a blind spot as to why they do things with IT.
Yes.
Because they sort of feel they need to. Not as in they feel they need to because that's what businesses do, not because that's what their business should do. And I think back to our lawyers and accountants, nobody runs a mail server, right? We buy cloud services for our line of business applications.
Of course.
Because it's better value.
Yeah.
It's much more secure. I mean, all right, yes, there's stuff in the news about this breach and that breach, but fundamentally, the big, large-scale cloud providers like Office 365, like Salesforce, they invest a lot of money in security because they can't afford to fail.
That's right. And it's been proven, right? These services have been industry proven. Everybody used them, so it's safe for everyone to do the same.
Exactly.
Right? That's been said and done. No question. Right.
So there's three reasons I find that people want to move things into the cloud. Right. One is it's our business apps, and if you like where they trip up is they, rather than buying a cloud service like 365, they start putting their email server in Azure. It's the infrastructure move, which sort of segues to reason two why they move. Oh, well, we want to put all our servers in the cloud. That's okay. There's a lot of valid reasons for that. Yep. But I find that people don't always do the right sums. It's again, it'll be a lot cheaper. Will it really? It's not to say that you shouldn't put servers in the cloud, but I mean, if you look at, I'm a Yorkshireman, right? Deep pockets, short arms. If I buy a server, so long as that server's still working, I can do stuff with it.
Yeah.
And I have servers that are, if you like, core production servers that are running core production stuff. And then I've got the long tail of, well, if it dies, I don't really care, but it's running virtual machines and test environments and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's more cost effective for me to keep the physical TIM, even with the cost of aircon and the cost of power.
Yeah.
But for some organizations, I did some work a while back with an organization that was in that beautiful sweet spot. The lease on the building where their data center was going to expire, right? And they could literally do a proper total cost of ownership. Well, it's going to cost this much to renew the lease and we'll be committed for this long. Meanwhile, because everything else is tied to the same calendar, our SAN's going to need replacing. Here's the capital cost. It's going to cost this much. So they really could work it out. And it was blindingly obvious that the cost per year of running the same servers in Azure would be less than the amortized cost year on year for having the physical prem. Brilliant. Let's move our servers, right? Business value. Fantastic. not just we think we ought to move things. And then reason 3 for moving to the cloud, which I tend to find more as a software company, is we're putting our line of business applications in the cloud, right? And that tends to be in-house written stuff.
Yep.
And again, people think they should, therefore they do. We do a lift and shift migration into the cloud because it's going to be cheaper, as opposed to we should review what our line of business system does and modernize it into the cloud and change the components to be cloud native to give us better flexibility, better agility, all those illities you mentioned a few minutes ago, right?
Yep.
The key is doing the thinking up front to do the strategic move in a strategic manner.
Exactly.
Rather than starting with a tactical migration that consumes all of your budget.
That's right. And what is so imperative when you do that, when you sit down and work through a strategy. Why are we doing this? Why do we think that we're doing this? The strategy can change. Mm-hmm. Not super likely, but there can be shifts there as well. You start by saying, oh, we know it's going to be much cheaper, and that's where we're going. And then, 6 months in, some important customer comes and says that I require you to be so-and-so compliant or else you won't get my business. And now compliancy is the strategy point number 1. It wasn't before, but now it is. So strategies can change. But in this place, I have found that it is so imperative to inform the doers of the technical people, the magical folks, of what the strategy actually is, and then not only just telling them or just writing it, tattooing it on their arm or whatever. That's good if they really know it, but you also need to find some way to measure that, whatever it is. You need to be able to follow up, because the bean counters and the less technical people who are wonderful with other things than technology will not be able to know if it's actually going to happen, or if it's actually happening, the thing that we said was our strategy. So how do you measure it? Find out how and make a dashboard and give that to less technical people so they can see a needle or something going up on a scale indicating that we're on the right track.
Yeah, right? No, absolutely. And I think a lot of organizations that I encounter, they build that dashboard focused on technical metrics, not business metrics.
That's right.
So that they're not necessarily tracking. Well, they might be tracking budget, but they're not necessarily tracking it against revenue or whatever is being
something that matters to the business, right? Or if it's more customers, or if it's, I don't know what that is. It's going to vary, but that thing which strategically is the focus of the business needs to be related to something like cost and over time or something like that. Yeah. Brilliant. So listen, thank you so much for being on this show. I think we could talk for days, weeks, lots of time about this, and we don't have time to do that. But I really appreciate you being on the show today. So thank you, and have a good evening.
No, thanks for having me, Magnus. It's been a pleasure.